Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. So if you're not familiar with the channel, I actually built this workshop, a 16x8 workshop 3 years ago now. So I've dug out all the photos and video clips that I've found on my hard drives from when I built it right up until today, and what I've done with it since I built it. So starting off then at the very beginning, I'm just laying out the ground here with the 2x4s, and I made two frames, I think about 8 foot by 8 foot each, and I coated them in a preservative and put some noggins in. So I actually laid the two parts of the frame on paving slabs. So I wanted to build this shed on a budget, so I used pallet wood for the floor. I worked out at the time it would save me a few £100 on sheet materials, so I started off building the floor, and I used a damp proof course underneath before I added the pallet boards. As you can see there, the damp proof course prevents moisture coming up through the floor and drafts. So there you can see the pallet floor down, 16x8 floor of pallet wood, and it was quite sturdy, roughly about 20mm thick. Then I started to build the frames with the windows in. I think there's 6 frames in total. That's one at the back with a large window that's going to be in there, and the front panel, and the two frames that I used for the floor, the base, I bolted together, and I did the same, screwed and bolted all of the side panels too. And I used the base itself to actually build these frames because it gave me a large flat surface to work with. So you can really see it coming together now. I started to drive screws in the bottom of the frames and make up the kind of skeleton. The front half of the shed is higher up than the back half to give the roof a slope, and it's all made of 2x3s. So again with the roof, 2x3s again, and these are about 9 feet or 3 meters in length, spaced about 40 centimeters apart, and they're attached with just cheap angle brackets. Again, as I say, I'm trying to keep the cost down here and build this shed as cheap as I can, and that central support is to stop the shed racking in the middle, keep it all nice and square and sturdy. There's a slight overhang at the front and the back. So for the door I used a recycled old double glazed door. I got this on eBay for £20, and I was surprised just how nicely it fitted into the shed. For the windows I'm using scrap pieces of plastic windows from sheds, from greenhouses, things like that, just stuff I found in a skip. So once the frame was up, I started to wrap it with a breathable membrane wrap, which is waterproof, but it allows moisture to exit the building. And I sealed the wrap with aluminium tape. I did the same to the roof too. So all the windows that you see are just recycled pieces of plastic. And the one is a double glazed window that I paid £10 for. So you can really see it coming together now. I did strengthen up the frame slightly with a few 45-degree angle pieces. I wanted to add plenty of windows to get plenty of natural light in here as well. So you can see there the aluminium tape sealing all the gaps, and I used some caulking around the floor to seal the floor to the frames. So for the roof I used bitumen corrugated roofing sheets. These are about 5mm thick and they overlap each other. and they screw down with special fixings. I've had no leaks so far after 3 years, no leaks whatsoever, so I'm glad I used this type of roofing. So for the cladding, I'm just using standard feather edge board, and I attached it with ring nails. That was the cheapest thing at the time. So it's really coming together now. All the cladding is now on. Then it was time to give it some paint. I decided to go with grey. This is just a standard grey fence stain. And I added some guttering at the back and a downpipe. There is a gap at the back of the shed, so there's access. So I decided to add a small porch above the door just to keep driving rain off the bottom of the door and just away from the area where you enter the shed. And again, I used some recycled plastic for that, polycarbonate. So I wanted to add a trim to the overlap, the overhanging roof at the front. This is some steel right angle trim, and I'm using some Tex screws to attach it. I added a sign to the door of the workshop. And I used aluminium bubble wrap for insulation on the inside. I covered all the walls and the ceiling, and then I added any leftover bits I had to double it up. So then I wanted to move on to panelling out the walls. So to save money again, I decided to panel inside each section of the wall, and that would allow me to use small scraps of thin materials such as plywood rather than buying large sheets. And it also saves space because the panels are kind of slightly sunken into the wall. So here I'm just using scrap wood, pallet wood, and then bits of plywood, hardboard, things like that. And that gives the wall a little bit of a cavity as well. This is a longer, more time consuming way of doing it, but if you've got scrap wood available, I think it's worth it, because I didn't actually spend any money on the panelling of this shed. I could then screw each piece to the battens behind it. And that slight gap going inwards would allow me to hang tools later on, and that would sit flush with the wall rather than protruding from the wall. So after I've done each panel, I went in with some caulk to seal the gaps and then gave it all a coat of white paint. These are just pieces of hardboard that I got from deliveries free, so I was happy to make use of this wood. If you're not familiar with the channel, I do lots of DIY videos. I have well over 250 videos now, so please feel free to check them out. I could then start to add tools to these panels. So here I'm adding some magnetic tool holders. Most of the things that I'm doing inside the shed I have videos on, so I'll leave links to those videos, the original videos, down below in the description box if you're interested. So now you can see most of the panelling has been completed. On the other side of the shed I gave it a coat of light grey. I've added some wall brackets here to store long pieces of wood, and I've added other various things to the walls. So that is about it for the shed. We're up to date now. It's been 3 years and I'm happy with the shed. I've been using it almost on a daily basis for the past 3 years, and it's doing great. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to like and also consider subscribing for more DIY related videos. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.